Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between the director of a drama school and a parent named Maggie. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6.
Hi, my name's Maggie. I think I spoke to you yesterday about coming in to see you about the drama classes.
Oh, yes. Hi. How can I help you?
We're new to the area and I'd like my children, Terry, Andrea and Jasmine, to join the drama classes. They love acting, singing and dancing, and they're very energetic. And I also thought it would be a good way for them to make friends.
Oh, yes. We offer dancing and singing as well as acting classes. And the club's a good place for everyone to meet new people. We have different social and family groups, and everyone here is very friendly.
Great. Can I just ask you some questions about the drama classes?
Yes, sure. What would you like to know?
What classes are there and when are they held?
Well, during the week, we have classes for different age groups. By the way, what ages are your children?
Terry's 8, Andrea's 12, and Jasmine's 16.
Well, for the youngest age group, those aged 7 to 11, the times are 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday evening. And for those aged 12 to 15, between 4 and 6 p.m. on Wednesday evening. And for those 16 and above, it's 6 to 8 p.m. on Friday evening.
Is there anything at the weekends?
Yes, we also have workshops on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m, but they're usually for older members, 18 and above. We also have social outings to theatres at discount rates, so it's possible for whole families to come. We even get free theatre tickets at times, which we announce on our website.
Oh, that's good to know. And what about school holidays?
Well, during the holidays, we run summer camps for young people up to the age of 16. These usually run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. They are combined with the youth club activities and run during August.
And what about performances?
For each level, we aim to have at least one show a year in the summer. There is no pressure for anyone to perform, but we do encourage everyone to get involved one way or another, either acting or behind the scenes. Usually, everyone is really enthusiastic to take part.
Is it possible to have a look around?
Yes, sure. The building's used by other groups. We have no changing facilities, just a large room with lockers where people can put their things if necessary. But we advise people to come dressed for the workshops, in loose clothing and trainers.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10.
Can my kids join immediately?
Yes, they can. We always ask people to come and have a go first of all. Children usually come to meet new people and then want to come back, even the shy ones.
That's a good sign. Is there a fee?
There's a joining fee of £14 a year per person, and then there's a separate fee for the Saturday workshops, but they're usually very cheap. It's just to pay the workshop trainer, as we survive on small grants and gifts.
OK. I think I'd like to bring the children along.
Great. What's your full name and address?
My name's Maggie Campbell.
Is that Campbell?
Yes.
And the address?
It's 133 Arbuthnot Drive. I'll spell it. It's Arbuthnot.
And the postcode?
It's RV27 8PB.
And the children's names again?
Terry, he'll come for the Tuesday class, so that's the 17th of March. And Andrea, she'll come for the class on the 18th of March. And Jasmine on the 20th.
Can I take a mobile number?
It's 07700 336 601.
And your email address?
It's MA.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
Part 2.
You will hear a restaurant manager giving a briefing to new staff. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16.
OK, so it's really good that the three of you are starting today. I can give you this briefing all together and save time. Basically, you're all going to be waiting at table, moving between the kitchen, the dining room and the bar, taking the customers' orders and bringing them their food and drinks. Most things are fairly obvious, but sometimes when it gets busy, you have to find things in a hurry and there's nobody to ask. So I'm going to show you where 1 or 2 key items are kept. First, cutlery. Knives, forks, spoons, that kind of thing. As soon as each table is vacated, when the diners get up to leave, you should come and clear the table and relay it. The clean stuff is kept just inside the kitchen, OK? The same place where the chef leaves the plates of food that are ready to be served. Remember, waiters aren't allowed to enter the food preparation area itself, so you needn't go any further into the kitchen than that. But before you can lay the table, you'll need to put on fresh table linen. Obviously the napkins, but also the cloth, even if it looks clean, will need changing. Clean table linen is kept in a cupboard here below the till, where we deal with the customer's payments, so you may have to be patient if somebody's waiting for a credit card authorization or something. Now, customers are given menus when they first enter the restaurant to look at while they're waiting at the bar to be shown to their table. All you have to do is collect these up after you've taken the order and return them to the stand by the front door. There are always spares there if you need one. There are real flowers on each table. These don't usually get changed between customers, but if people want to take them, they can. Or sometimes they get damaged. Anyway, if you need new ones, you can find them in a bucket of water beside the door that leads into the yard behind the restaurant. And finally, if there's a spill or a glass gets knocked over or you need something to clean up the mess, there's a supply of disposable towels next to the barman's sink. That's something you're sure to be needing sooner or later. And if anyone actually gets injured, there is always a first aider on duty. There's a duty list on the wall in my office, and there's a red box on the wall by the door into the restroom which you share with the kitchen staff. That's got all the necessary stuff in, you know, bandages, plasters and so on. So, has anyone got any questions so far?
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20.
And now, just a word about complaints. Ideally, we don't get any, but sometimes things can go wrong, and sometimes you also get difficult customers. Anyway, as the waiter, you will often be the person who gets to hear the complaint first. It's important not to respond, however, but to refer the complaint to the responsible person who will deal with it. As manager, I like to hear about all complaints, but I don't need to be directly involved in minor ones. If, for example, customers complain when they first enter the restaurant, perhaps they don't like their table or they're kept waiting too long, then there's no need to call me. This is something the head waiter will deal with. When it comes to the food itself, however, particular dishes that people don't like or whatever, there's a need to be cautious. The head chef is quite a strong character who doesn't like to be criticised. So, although in the end he will be responsible for dealing with complaints about the food, please don't approach him directly. Always go through the head waiter. Now, when it comes to complaints about the whole meal, whether it's the food or the service in general, then I do want to know. The head chef and the head waiter will be involved in sorting out the problem, but I want to speak to the customers myself and find out what's gone wrong and offer them a free meal or a discount. Finally, if the customer has already paid and then complains about anything, then this is something only the manager can sort out because it could be a refund, perhaps on a credit card, and this will need authorisation. I'm generally in my office if I'm not actually in the dining room, so don't hesitate to call me. So, if there are no further questions...
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3. Part 3.
You will hear a tutor talking to two students, called Jack and Francesca, about a presentation they have given. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
Okay, if you want, we've got some time left for some feedback on your joint presentation today.
Yeah, we can do it now while it's fresh in our minds, if it's okay with Francesca.
It's okay with me.
So, Francesca, how do you think it went?
Well, I was really happy with it actually, but I'm glad it's over. I think the main advantage of doing the presentation was that we both learned quite a lot about training and skills development for the workplace, and how they improve people's opportunities in life, especially their job prospects.
And we learnt a lot from actually delivering the presentation as well, which is really useful for the future.
Yeah, that was important too. As I said, I was pleased with it, but if I had to do it all over again, I'd change a few things.
Like what, for instance?
Well, the first thing I do is work on the pace of the talk and make the delivery slower. And I'd keep a clock in front of me so that I was aware of the speed. And the next thing is, the length of the talk. I'd make the presentation time 15 minutes for each of us, because I think 10 minutes each was much too short. If we had given ourselves more time, it would have flowed better.
Yes, I agree. I thought the timing was a bit tight. I'd say maybe even 30 minutes each.
30 minutes might have been a bit long for both you and the audience.
Maybe you're right. 15 minutes each would probably have been better.
And the next thing is the order of the data. I thought the sequence was bad. It could have been a lot better.
Yes. If I had to give some particular advice, I'd say you needed to give yourselves a run-through once or twice using the equipment just to see what it's like. Doing it without preparation like that's not that easy.
No, definitely not. And another thing for me is that we forgot to give out the handouts with the copies of our slides on them for people to take notes. I should have given them out before we started. And one final thing I do is I check that everyone could see the screen properly. I'd make sure the arrangement of the chairs in the room made it easy for everyone to see.
And Jack, what about you? How did you feel about it all?
Well, I agree with Francesca. Yeah, in everything she said. It's very difficult to make the delivery smooth. When I do it again, I'll definitely spend more time practicing to make it run more smoothly.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
But would you add anything to what Francesca said?
Perhaps I'd try to pack less information into the time given. I thought at first it would be the opposite. I was afraid that we'd end up looking foolish. And also, I think I'd spend less time on the information gathering phase, because unless time is devoted to practicing, it'll not be possible to give a good performance.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. Anything else?
Yeah, I get very nervous when I speak in front of people. If I did it again, I'd make sure I practiced speaking out loud and projecting my voice. I think the key for me is learning to steady my nerves.
But you were very calm.
Not inside, I wasn't.
Well, it didn't show.
I think you need the nerves to keep you going. But maybe try to take your mind off it beforehand by exercising or something.
Is that everything?
Yeah?
Okay. Well, you'll be pleased to know the feedback from the class questionnaires was that the presentation was enjoyable, so well done. I have to say that I agree with them.
Oh, thanks.
I'll make a copy for both of you of the questionnaires if you want, and if and when you do give a talk again, you can keep them to refer to.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to Part 4.
Part 4.
You will hear an ecologist talking about how levels of biodiversity are calculated. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Today, I'm going to be talking about the work of scientists who have the job of trying to calculate the level of biodiversity in rainforest areas, particularly in those places where only small areas of forest remain, surrounded by land which has been cleared for human exploitation, usually farming. It is well known that deforestation has a directly detrimental effect on many species of animals by destroying their habitats. However, in all of these ecosystems across the world, the wildlife that remains, even in pristine, untouched habitat, is under threat due to the effects of a process known as fragmentation, in which one large forest gets broken up into many smaller areas. This is very bad news for wildlife for many reasons. Firstly, small areas of rainforest don't have the same volume of vegetation as larger areas, and so provide less of the food, in particular fruit, needed to support complex ecosystems. This means it can support fewer plant-eating animals, and even fewer of the large animals which prey on them. Secondly, large animals need large territories, but they also need access to the territories of other populations of their own species. Unfortunately for many species of land animal, a piece of forest a kilometre away on the other side of a cattle farm may as well be on the other side of the world because it can't cross the farmland. This leads to a reduction in genetic diversity. Finally, another problem occurs when a large proportion of a rainforest habitat is bordering farmland. This is known as the edge effect. Farming practices change the quality of the habitat where it meets the forest, affecting the amount of light and shade and the temperature. Evidence of this can be found in poor tree growth and the absence of many animal species up to 100 meters in from the forest edge. Additionally, rainforest bordering farmland is more likely to attract hunting parties. Often, it is the biggest species that are absent in these small areas of rainforest. Large grazing mammals, which need a lot of land and vegetation, like elephants, or those at the top of their food chain, like lions. However, small animals are also vulnerable, especially if they rely on a very specific diet. Indeed, many of the most endangered species in the world are small animals that live a fragile existence. Assessing biodiversity starts with trying to work out how many species there are in an area, and estimating how many individuals there are of each species based on how many you find. The most basic method is to simply walk through a habitat and keep your eyes and ears open for the animals themselves or signs of them. This works for noisy animals such as monkeys, or birds with identifiable nests, or creatures with predictable hiding habits such as some snakes. Despite being simple, this technique does need careful consideration. Timing and location are everything. Trapping methods are useful for a wide range of different animals which are harder to spot. Small, ground-dwelling animals such as rodents and frogs can all be assessed with traps. For example, a temporary fence is put up, usually a long sheet of plastic. In trying to get around it, the animals fall into buckets dug into the ground. These have a layer of soil and leaves at the bottom, and the animals stay there until they can be checked, recorded, and released. Flying species such as bats and low-flying birds can be trapped using fine nets called mist nets. For those animals that are elusive and more difficult to trap, camera traps are great for determining the presence of that species, but are unlikely to be able to provide a good estimate of the number of individuals in a population. For those animals that can be caught, a microchip can be inserted under the skin so it can be identified if caught again. Calculating how many captures are actually recaptures provides an estimate of how many of that species there are in total.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.